Okay, so today's video we're going to be putting the wiring in for the vintage air AC system for my 71 Corvette. I've got the wiring harness laid out here, kind of stretched out where the wires need to go. This end to the right goes under the dash. The other end, the blue wire, basically just the blue wire goes out to the trinary switch to operate the compressor clutch. So I'll need to run there's a green and red wire that hooks into this that goes out to the heater control valve there's a plug-in right here listed under miscellaneous parts. What I'm going to try to do is, if you can see that light coming through right there where my finger's pointing. I've got my flashlight out there in the firewall. I can see the hole through the firewall from here. What I'm going to try to do is, I'm going to try to feed my electrical fish tape up through there. I'm going to hook it in here now. I'm going to pull that back through my blue wire. These are the only wires I have to run under the dash. Unhook the blue one. I'm going to pull it up in here as far as I can. Now I'm going to pull this back. It'll pull that black wire along with my green and red wire that has to plug into the harness under the dash, and then the other end of it plugs into the heater control. Hopefully it doesn't catch too much anymore, and then I'll be able to pull it the rest of the way through. Okay, so what I need to do now is route this wire. This in here has to plug in right here, but what I want to do is I'm going to route it behind here to kind of keep it up out of the way, and they give you more than enough wire to run this however you want to run it. So should be plenty of room there. I just bring it around like that. Put it in like that, and that should do that. Now there's a relay here. I want to try to find some place to screw this up so it's not flopping around, and then I have to plug this into here also. So I don't know if I have enough wire. I've got this plugs into this, so I'll run it back here also, back behind this, the airbox mounting bracket. And then it plugs into this plug-in here, like that. Okay. Now what I think I'm going to do when I get all done, I'm going to zip tie all this stuff up so it's not rattling around, flopping around loose and everything. But for now, I'm just going to leave it hanging there until I get everything wired. Now I have this plug-in here, and the wire coming from under the dash for the heater box control plugs into this. So I can take my fish tape wire off of this. And then what I want to do, I think I want to be behind that hose so I'm not catching on that hose. And that just plugs there. Now, when you first set this thing up, you do have to do some programming. It's very simple. There's a ground wire here. You touch it to ground. You cycle the controls a certain way until the fan speeds up, and then you cycle another way and disconnect the ground, and it'll program itself. I think what it does is it sets the servo motors to the right position. Now somebody told me that if you ever have to change a battery in your car or something, you have to do this again, and you have to reprogram them. So I'm not sure if that's true or not. I think I might just leave this where I can get to it easily in case I do have to reprogram it. I don't want it up under the dash where I take the dash apart. I'm going to leave it somewhere zip tied where I can get it and pull it down and touch it to ground and reprogram it if I have to. Just something to keep in mind. That's pretty much it wiring it up. The other wires you have to hook up is you have two positive wires going back. They have to hook directly to the battery. They provide a 30 amp breaker, and you want to wire that breaker in as close to the battery as you can. So I'm going to run the power wires back to the positive terminal of the battery, mount that breaker, and then there's two wires they're showing both go to ground also. And they want the grounds wired directly to the battery, so make sure you do that. So anyway, I'm gonna get these wires ran then, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. Vintage Air is real good about providing all the wiring you need, enough wire to reach everywhere so you don't have to splice a bunch of wires. This wire here comes through the firewall. It's got a red and a green wire on it, and then white that's got to go to chassis ground, so I'm going to have to find a good place to ground this. But it plugs into this plug-in. Pretty much everything's plug-and-play stuff on this, other than where you got to hook it into the car itself. But it plugs into this flow control valve here that opens and closes to allow hot water into the heater core. You don't want that heater core cycling hot water through it when you're running the air. It's going to make it work a lot harder to cool the car down. So this valve shuts the water flow off when you're using air conditioning, and when you use heat, it opens up and lets the hot water flow through the heater core and heat up the inside of the car. So that's what this wire takes care of. So I got to plug that into that plug-in, mount this ground somewhere on a good chassis ground, and then this blue wire goes to it'd normally be the binary switch, because it's just, they provide a binary switch. It just works to allow the compressor to turn on if there's enough pressure in the line, enough freon. If there isn't, it won't turn on. So it's kind of a safety feature. I put what they call a trinary switch on here, where I can hook up to 2 fans, electric fans into it. If I decide to put an aluminum radiator in here with electric fans, I won't have to switch this out, drain my freon out, and have it recharged and everything. So it's already set up in there. But basically, there's 2 blue wires. Okay, the wire coming from the harness under the dash will hook into one side of this, and then the wire that they provide from the compressor will hook into the other side. So that'll complete the circuit. So I'm going to go ahead and get those wires ran, and I'm going to try to tuck them up out of the way and maybe put them in some loom or something so they don't look quite so ugly. So I'll get that done, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's all finished. Okay, the installation is complete on the Vintage Air AC heat system, and overall I'm very happy with it. It's a very easy installation. The instructions are pretty clear. The wiring is super easy. It's just a really nice unit, and the price isn't too bad either, I guess, if you look at prices of things. But I'll just kind of walk you through it real quick what I did, and I don't know how much you're going to be able to see. If you look down in here, there's the dryer, and then this is called a trinary switch. It comes with a binary switch, which only has 2 wires coming out of it, and they're 2 blue wires. And what that works, it's a pressure switch to turn the compressor off if the pressure is too low, or if the pressure is too high. It will keep the compressor from kicking on. It's kind of a safety feature. When you have the binary switch that comes with it, it's just to turn the compressor off and on. I went ahead and ordered the accessory for the trinary switch, which it allows you for the switch to turn the compressor off and on in it. Plus, it's got another set of wires that will turn your electric fans off and on if you want to put electric fans on the car. And I haven't decided yet. I might end up putting an aluminum radiator and electric fans in here. I don't know yet. I'm going to see how good it cools with the AC unit. I took it for a little drive, and so far it seems to be cooling pretty good. So, I mean, the engine's run a little hotter than it did before, but not bad. But I haven't really had it out much, so I'll see how that works out. But anyway, that's coming back. Then you have the compressor and the hoses coming from your condenser, which is up there in front of the radiator. It looks like a little radiator itself, but the freon runs through it, and it's cooled down up there. and then it goes through the compressor and then down through the firewall. And you can also see the heater hoses that go from the block and the water pump into the firewall for the heater core. So you have heat with this system too. And then this car had factory air, so in this area here there was a big box that held the heater core, had the blower motor and everything here on this side of the firewall. With the vintage air, everything goes under the dash, so it's really compact and it makes the engine compartment look really nice. There's this plate here you put in here to cover the hole from the factory air, and then there's a round plate that goes over where the blower motor goes under here. Again, very simple installation, very easy to do. And then when you come inside the car, looking at the car, everything looks factory. The way this works, the AC, it's got a switch where you can either have it come out on the floor. There's some vents behind this box here that'll vent it out on the floor, or you got it where it'll come through here, and the center vents on the dash, and the round vent over on the driver's side too. And that's the way I have it set right now. And it gets pretty cold in here, so it works really well. Now, vintage air with this system, you can hook it into the original controls, the dial controls that were coming in these earlier C3s, or it comes with this control panel here, and you can put it in place of it. And that's what I did. I didn't like those dial switches, and these move so easy. They work really nice, and I just like those better, so I went and put those in. So, and then in the back, I put a fuse block here in the back in this center compartment. Let me get the flashlight up here. Okay, this is the master breaker for the AC unit, and I've got it going into this block, and then this wire here goes directly to the battery, which is right here in this compartment. So it's a real short run. Same way with the grounds. These white wires over on this side are the ground wires for the vintage air, and again, I've got the ground wire here to the battery, and it's, the battery's right next to this. So I didn't want to run it through the original vehicle wiring system because it's got the old glass fuses and the wire's 51 years old. So everything I put in the car this time, the AC, my subwoofer here that I put in when I put the stereo in, the stereo, and my GPS speedometer control, I ran it all through this box here. So it's got the blade type fuses in here. If everything's brand new wire on everything I ran in, so I don't have to worry about overloading existing circuits or anything like that, or causing old brittle wire to start shorting out because it's carrying a heavier load. So that's something to keep in mind when you're doing your car. You want to make sure your wiring and the rest of the car is up to snuff to what you're putting in there, so you don't overload it and have a wire melt and burn your car up. The last thing you want is a fire in a plastic car, right? I kind of wanted to go over a couple of things that I had issues with the system when I was putting it in for the vintage air. Like I said, their instructions are really good. Normally, everything was just like it showed in the instructions. I did run into a couple issues, and they were really minor, and once I looked at all the parts, it was easy to figure out. But there's a plastic vent, and I will show you the one that is the factory vent. Okay, this is the factory vent that goes under on the driver's side. This long skinny part goes under the steering column, and it goes over to the left side of that round vent on the bottom part of the dash on the driver's side. And then it's bolted in with this bracket right here into that left dash panel. And with that in the car, I had that in there originally, and this part here is pretty thin. And with my clutch, your foot goes right here when you're operating the clutch, and I didn't have any issues with my foot catching on it or anything. Now the one vintage air gives you, kind of hard to see, but basically this piece is almost straight across here. It's still cut down in this area like this one is, but it's a little bit thicker, and it's got a seam here. And I keep catching my toe of my shoe on that when I go to let out on the clutch, so I got to keep my foot down on the clutch pedal so it just clears that. And I've kind of got used to doing that, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that piece out and put this factory piece back in, and I can still run. This is a piece of the hose that goes into it. On the Vintage Air one, this goes around the outside of it like that. This is too big for that to do it, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it go on the inside, put it in there, and then take some of that silver tape and put it around here to seal it off. And I think that will keep me from, see how bad I'm sweating, it's hot in here today, it's 90 some degrees. But I think that'll keep my toe from catching on there, because I never had any issue with that before with this end. So that's one thing I think they need to look at, is maybe making this a little bit thinner through here so it fits up tighter against the steering, you know, the steering column, because I got it tight up against there, you can't go any higher, so I have no choice to take it out and put this one back in. And then the other thing was on this trinary switch up here that turns the compressor off and on. On the binary switch, there's two blue wires that come off of it. That one goes to a wire coming from inside the car that's hooked to the unit itself, that when you turn it on, it energizes and feeds power to that trinary switch, and it's supposed to go through and come out and go and turn the compressor on. Okay, and again, it was my fault because the trinary switch does come with its own instructions, but the Vintage Air instructions are for the binary switch, and it has two blue wires coming out of it, and the wire going to the compressor and the wire going under the firewall is blue, and you hook the one blue wire to the one blue wire on the binary switch, and the other blue wire from the binary switch to the wire coming up to the compressor. Okay, blue to blue to blue to blue, which makes sense. Okay, the trinary switch has 4 wires. It has 2 blue wires, and then it has 2 green wires with black stripes on them. Dummy me, I didn't bother to look at the instructions with the trinary switch. I just assumed, and that's the wrong thing to do, that blue to blue to blue to blue still. So that's why I hooked it up. When I went to get the mechanic shop to get the Freon put in it, we couldn't get the compressor to work. And my first thought was, since there's only one wire, a power wire, coming to the compressor, the ground is through the housing to the mounting brackets and to the engine. And I powder coated those brackets, so I told the mechanic, I said, well, maybe I'm not getting connection for ground because I got those powder coated, and it might not be digging into where it gets contact. So I told him I'd bring it back home, I would check that and see if that made a difference. I put a better ground wire. I put an actual ground wire coming from this case down to a bolt on the water pump, so it's definitely grounded. That didn't help. So I checked see if I had power coming in here to the compressor. I didn't have any power here, so I went down to the trinary switch. On the one blue wire, I had power going into the trinary switch because I had power coming from under the dash. I didn't, on the blue wire coming out of the trinary switch, I had no power. So I went and found the instructions, and for some reason, when you use a trinary switch, at least this particular trinary switch, you want to be sure and check your instructions, whichever one you have, if you're doing this. But the green wires with the black stripes go to the blue wire going under the dash, and the other one, green wire with the black stripe, goes to the AC compressor. And the blue wires, one goes to ground, and the other one would go to your relay for your fans, to turn your electric fans on. Why they don't make them all the same colors is beyond me, but again, it was my own fault. I had the instructions with both of them. I should have looked at both of them. I just seen the Vintage Air one and thought, oh, blue to blue makes sense. So anyway, I switched that around and it worked great. So just make sure you follow those instructions, and if you're adding anything on additionally that didn't come with the original kit, make sure you look at the instructions that came with that part. That's really the only negative things I could say about the kit, and even that's a very minor part. It was my fault. Overall, like I said, I would recommend a Vintage Air if you're wanting to go to a new AC system in any car. They make them for all different cars, not just Corvettes. If you want to use Vintage Air, I would recommend them. All the parts are really high quality parts that come with the thing. It's very easy to follow the instructions, and it's very easy to install. You know, the wiring, everything, it's all laid out. You know, it shows you exactly where each wire goes and what you have to do to connect it. Either you have to put an inline fuse or whatever. So AC all in. I just got back from getting it charged, and it is working awesome. It is cold in this car. I've got it blowing at about 3/4 fan speed, and that's half there, and it is very, very comfortable in this car, and it's like 95 degrees out today. So I'm very impressed with the vintage air system. It was easy to install, it was reasonably priced, and it so far, knock on wood, it's working awesome. Appreciate you watching the videos, and I always say, if you like the videos, please hit the like and subscribe, share them with your friends, and we'll see you on the next video. Have a great day.